So yes, welcome everyone to our live virtual support group. We are now airing a new time, even though we're a little late today. But we will now be going live every Thursday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Because we noticed is that we had a pretty live after five group last week. So we will now be live from 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And today we are talking about healing from heartbreak. So I'm going to toss it over to Michelle to tell us about what inspired her to want to talk about this today.
Really, the group inspired me to share. There was a post. One of our members shared a post, and really, it was Ember. Ember shared a post saying that Queens, I saw my heartbreaker. He disrespected me, my body, my emotions, but I still miss him. He's not a healthy person, and I need some healthy, unconditional love and acceptance. So when I saw that and I saw so many people jump in to support her, I just thought it would be something good for us to talk about today on emotional.
Because I think a lot of us have experienced heartbreak in some way, shape, or form. And today we're going to talk heartbreak, I guess, intimacy heartbreak, because there's other forms, but we're going to talk intimacy and the reality of what we connect with, not always being what we need to stay with, right? And so I guess what we'll start is what is the main points that you think we should walk away from when we think of that post, like from your perspectives?
So we'll start off just with our first point, which is that one, you want to acknowledge what you feel and even the behaviors that you're inclined to actually act out during this process of trying to heal from heartbreak. As we were all preparing, the three of us were preparing for this group, the consensus that we had is that we're not going to come here and be like, oh, don't miss him, don't miss her. What are you missing them for? They're horrible, they're bad for you. Like, sis, just focus on you and do your thing. Like, okay, like it sounds good, but the practicality of it is completely missing. And the thing about it with this point is that acknowledging your feelings is that your feelings are valid. Your emotions are valid in that moment. As you realize that it was time to move on, or maybe the relationship ended for, reasons that's outside of your control. But regardless of that, is that you may have had some good moments, even in the midst of the tumultuous ones. And so just being able to still acknowledge the fact that, hey, I miss this moment that I had, or this conversation, or this feeling that I had. And so now I want to cry, or now I'm tempted to call them or text them. Like, acknowledge that, even if you don't follow through on it, because it may not be a good thing to actually call or text them, right? But just being able to say, hey, I really want to call them right now. And just be honest about that. Like, it's okay to acknowledge the reality of what you're feeling in that moment.
Yeah, I mean, acknowledging that, you're missing someone, you're missing that person, and acknowledging your behavior, your feelings around missing them. And even though you are moving on and you're getting away from something that's toxic, because anybody who's disrespecting you, and your body, your mind, your spirit, that's extremely toxic. And so you're doing the right thing by getting away from them, and you might feel conflicted because you miss it, right? It's not good for you. You're moving on. You're on your healing journey, but now you miss the person. You see the person, something pops up, especially in the social media world. You're always kind of crossing each other.
Memories.
Yeah,
happened last year at this time on this Friday, and you like, I've been over this trying to get through this, and you gonna put this thing here today. I don't need to see this man's face or this woman's face. I don't need this in my life. So,
or if your anniversary, like if your birthday comes up, or the anniversary of you all committing to each other comes up, like today, October 9th, this could be a special day, or used to be a special day for someone, but it no longer is because you're not with that person anymore. It's okay to acknowledge that, oh man, on this day I would have been doing XYZ, or going all out to, share my love with this person.
And even if it's not a special day, the reality is that if you had an emotional connection to that person, it's human to actually feel like you will miss them because they were familiar and comfortable, even if they were toxic and unhealthy, right? And so we wanted to make sure that it's clear that before we go and say, girl, get your life together, don't be around with that person, we need to just validate the reality that you are in a transitional point where you're missing that person actively, and that's okay. And that emotion is not to be disregarded as something unhealthy. It's actually natural. And being able to acknowledge that and acknowledge what you really feel is like the first thing that you really want to do. And validating is part of the journey of healing, that you had moments where you did the best things for you, and you have moments when you're not always doing the best things for you. That doesn't mean that you stop your journey. And so we just want you to validate your emotions, your behaviors that might come from those emotions, right? So if you need to cry, girl. If you need to call a friend, phone a friend, do something, just know that the feeling is okay to feel, and don't judge yourself harshly, and make sure you have compassion for yourself in that moment.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because like our inclination would be like, oh, I just need to get over it. Oh, I just need to let it go. And it's like, yes. However, part of letting go is being real about where you are right now. Is that like you have to untangle entanglement. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist.
New favorite.
But it's that there's so much interlocking that has happened. And so it's just like being able to, release those connections is going to take time. It took time to build those connections. It's going to take time to now release those connections. And so it's just part of the process. And part of the process is going to be, again, just saying like, hey, I really miss this person today. Before we go to our second point, I want to give a shout out to Tamika, who's in the chat. She's saying, hey, ladies, she's a newbie.
Hello.
So we are so glad that you are part of the group. We're so glad to have you joining us for the chat today. If you or anyone else is watching, if you all have any questions or comments about anything that we're discussing, it's always, you're more than welcome to put comments in the chat. We're watching that. And if you have questions, we'll make sure to answer those. And then if you have a question or comment about something we're not even talking about today, it's okay to put that in the chat too, and we'll make
sure. Wait, what's the name of the show again? I forgot what you named it last week. You were giving names.
I messed up, y'all. Oh my goodness. I did not do my intro. Okay, so rewind real quick. Because we now have Michelle and we have like 3 hosts here, as far as thing, I have said that we now have a talk show. So this is the RS Self-Care Talk Show on the Emotional Wealth Channel.
Thank you. Now, I want her to be able to remember that every week, because I'm just not.
Emotional and we also have, I'll do a quick commercial break. Okay, so you guys can't really see the writing, but I ordered a water bottle from the RS Wellness store. On it, it has in pink, happy, healthy, and whole. So I love pink, so I was real hyped about that. I was able to get it in pink. But you can get your water bottle at the RS Wellness store and other products as well, so check that out. Oh, we have Tracy who's back. Hey girl. Hey. So Tracy is one of our faithful ladies who is.
Yes, thanks for joining us. Right?
Yeah, so we're so glad to have you.
So and we are supposed to stay on point today. Like, let's get to point 2. So we're selling water bottles, telling us the name of this show. All right, so point number 1, when we talk about like heartbreak, and specifically we're talking about intimacy and intimate partner heartbreak, right? Which means that it's someone that you were connected to and thought you were going to have a permanent relationship with, related to love. And so that heartbreak lingers on after, and you literally want to find a way to let go, but you also know that there's moments and realities that you miss them. And so the first point is to validate your emotions, validate it in a way that's honest to where you are in the moment, and also related to the behaviors that might come from that emotion. Like, you can cry, you can laugh, you can miss the person. Those are real and valid emotions that you should acknowledge as part of the journey of even healing as you separate from them. All right, so what's point number 2?
So point number
2. Oh, do you have that?
So point number 2 is really just dovetailing off of what you just said, Sharea, which is missing. What are we missing, right? You talked about missing the person, validate missing the person. So if the person is toxic and the behavior was disrespectful to your body, your mind, your soul, your spirit, what exactly are we missing when we're missing that relationship? Thinking about the reality of what we're missing. Are we missing the person? Are we missing, how'd you say it, Sharea, who we made the person out to be?
Yeah. Like sometimes we're missing the potential that we saw in the relationship. Sometimes we're missing the beginning or the false reality of the start of the relationship, where things might have been passionate and loving and caring, and this person was showing up like, oh, this character that I'm going to love for life, and they couldn't maintain it or hold it. And so you're missing that person that they really weren't, but who they were presenting themselves to be possibly at the beginning. And so you're missing elements of what really is real, like things that felt real are real to us, right? And so you're missing something because of that, and that's natural. But the reality check part is, how are you feeling as a result of what they've done? Right? So like when you really, really like questioning, should you go back, ask yourself, what have they done to harm my spirit, my body, and my mind? And if I can answer any of those in a negative way, then I need to consider that the reality tells me that what I'm doing and what I'm missing is not the reality. It's not who they really are. It's not what they can really offer me. It's not even, it's nothing wrong with what I thought could have been. But there's nothing that person can do but be who they are. And so that reality part is so important, because it goes past just validating what we feel to making sure we don't take actions to harm our healing. Right? So it stops us from running into that brick wall. It stops us from saying, hey, instead of phoning a friend to talk about missing him or her, to talk about the reality of the relationship, it stops me from doing that in a way that says, I needed to do this check-in to get real with myself and to take a different action than to return. Because if I return, then I am also confirming that it's acceptable to treat me less than what my body deserves. And my whole body, right? My spirit, my mind, everything, my whole self. And so I think that reality check, although it's a lot of elements to kind of do it, if you could say, look, dude, they call me out my name multiple times. They make me feel bad about who I am all the time. They threaten me. They make me feel like every time I'm with them, I'm not good enough. I don't feel enough. I'm never going to be enough. If I can say yes to these type of questions, then I have to take that as the real reality of where that relationship can go, not that facade that might have been given at the beginning or even during parts of the relationship, right? So I think for me, that reality check part is like super important in the moving on journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And
because I'm guilty.
Yeah, and with doing that reality check. Oh, go ahead. Say that again.
I was going to say, because I don't know, I'm not going to speak for anyone else, but I'm guilty of returning even when I did that reality check and I knew better, right? I'm guilty of knowing that this person means me no good and is going to give me no good. But because of what I was longing for in that moment, that's what I was really missing. That completion that I thought someone else was going to be able to give me, not really them. And so I needed to be able to really listen to that reality check and stop myself. And eventually I got there, right? But sometimes that reality check, if we don't do it, we're not honest to ourselves, right? But I also want to make it clear that like no one on this panel, is not guilty of these same things that we're saying not to do, right? Because there's moments where you're missing someone so deeply, connected to the wounds of your childhood, the wounds of your journey of healing, connected to so many other things that you still take the bad action. And so even in those things, you're going to have, like, I think earlier in this week, I put it up. Sometimes you're going to have to show compassion to yourself when you're disappointed, make mistakes. You have to get up, shake it off, and be like, look, I'm going to try one more time and do this reality check. But that time I didn't quite make it. Mm-hmm. So that reality check is important.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, like, for me, like, what part of my reality check is that I literally would talk out loud to myself and say, like, when I would have a memory come up where I was missing my extremely toxic ex, it's that I had to say out loud to myself, Sharea, the person that you fell in love with is not a person that exists. Mm. And when the first time I said that out loud to myself, I burst out in tears because it hurt to say that. Because the first month or so, like actually less than, like I'll say the first month and a half, oh my gosh, he was just like an angel straight from heaven. And After that, the honeymoon portion was over, and we were together for 4.5 years. And for the 4.5 years we were together, minus like 2 months, it was horrible. And so the person, the rest of the time we were together proved that who he was in the beginning was not who he really was. And so part of me being able to be honest about it and being able to let go was to acknowledge, Sharea, you fell in love with someone that wasn't real. And so even though the first time I burst out in tears because that was very painful to accept, each time memories and stuff would come up, I would literally say that out loud. And it got to the point where I stopped crying. I would still be sad. And then the more I kept saying, I stopped crying. I was no longer sad. Then I started feeling dumb, just to be honest. Like, dang, Sharea, like, how did you fall for that, right? But then I finally got to a place where I can say it, where it's like, even if something comes up now, I can say like, Sharea, the person you fell in love with was like, didn't exist, but it's okay that you thought it was, right? Where it's like now showing myself compassion, where it's like, you didn't go into it thinking like, hey, you know what? I want to find the most toxic man I can find. I want to be damaged emotionally and mentally, you know, over the course of 4 years. And then, hey, we'll just see how life goes afterwards, right? That wasn't my intention going
No one starts off with that signature.
Exactly, right? Like nobody wakes up today and say, you know what? I feel like heartbreak and coffee. Let me go and find someone to do that with, right?
Not a person.
And so just being able to have that, I had to then connect compassion and grace to myself, self-compassion to it, to be able to say like, Sharea, it's okay that you fell in love with him. You thought it was real. You were real. So you thought he was real as well. And just being able to have that reality check and just know that for me, it was stages of that reality check that allowed me to get through my process of healing from it.
Yeah. I mean, that's good, Sharea. I think like, you know, we are created to be with people. We're not created to be hermits and silo. So we yearn for that intimate connection with people. We yearn for the feeling, the touch, just the communication. And then, you know, whatever we learn from our families, we bring into relationships. And if we're not conscious of it, and even if we are, sometimes we fall into relationships that we shouldn't be in. And I think you described it perfectly in saying like you made somebody be who their representative was, right? Because a lot of times people show us their representative, and then after a while you get to know the real person. So, you know, I would just say, I know this isn't one of the major tips, but I would just add like the sexual connection is so hard to shake because it gets so deep. And so while we're learning people, and I know we have women who are on a part of this group or of different seasons, I'll say that, because I'm a woman, a seasoned woman, I'll call myself. But, you know, we have some younger women, we have some older women, and whatever, you know, season you're in, even mentally, let alone chronologically, it's important for us to remember to value and be sacred with our bodies and who we share it with. Because I think that's one of the things that makes it even harder to disconnect to people sometimes. So yeah, we have to make sure we get past the representative before we get entangled. Because it's really an entanglement, you know.
And it becomes impossible to untangle. And I do think, you know, just in general, I think when you think about connections that we entangle ourselves with, it's important to recognize the connections that you create when they are intimate, right? When they are beyond your mental control, right? Where it becomes a part of your every being. And so you want to be really mindful of what that toxic or what toxic behaviors might parallel the journey that you need to take with your healing, right? And so we look for or yearn for sometimes things to fill us in areas that might be about our self-reflection and self-love, and trying to really take the journey on our own sometimes is difficult. Right? And so being able to do that is not always easy, and part of even being compassionate to yourself in this journey is accepting that. And I think one of the other things that you said, I think it's important to recognize that being at different stages in your journey is not about your chronological age.
Right.
It's about your lived experience and your journey of healing and how that looks for you and where you are. So that becomes, to me, extremely important, because age does not equate to being healthy.
Not at all.
So
Not at all.
just wanted to make that point. I know it's not about what we're talking about, but I'm just like, yeah, like just because you older don't mean you right. Like,
Might still need that support.
yeah.
So I kind of want to go back to that point about the what we're missing too. Because we talked about the who, right? We have this person that meeting, but even going deeper into that what, and that's related to the point you just made, Sharea, is that when you look at even missing the person, you're missing that person, like you said, because of a void that they supposedly filled. And so when you get deeper and look beyond where it's like, oh, it's not necessarily this person, it's this feeling of being loved. So now when you look at that, where it's like, oh, if I want to feel loved, what else can I do that I can feel love? And that's not to say and put on the front and say that a platonic love can replace a romantic love, for instance, right? I don't believe that. Let me say that. It's me personally. At the same, okay, because listen, as much as I love my girlfriends, I'm still waiting for my husband. Hallelujah. And it's going to be good. So, but at the same token, even though I'm not in a committed relationship with someone right now, I'm still very fulfilled without having that person. And so when you start looking at what, like the root of what you're really missing, you're able to then start to connect with other people and connect with yourself in a way that allows you to still feel fulfilled while also desiring another aspect of fulfillment. And so with that love is that you can have great love with your girlfriends or with male friends or with your family members. You can have great love and passion by connecting with things that you really enjoy, you know? And so it's just that when you get to the root of what it is that connected you with that person, you can find other ways to still provide an element of fulfillment in your life, even as you're possibly seeking to be connected to someone else that's healthier.
Yes.
That's awesome, Sherry.
Good point.
You were getting a lot of hearts in the chat as you were
Yeah.
speaking. So I don't know if you wanted to take a minute to look at what they're talking about.
No, so Tracy just mentioned that this conversation is just right in line with what she was actually journaling about. So we're glad to hear that. And then Lakeisha just made a comment with talking about she's guilty of it as well. We were talking about things. So just people just giving amens, like no questions or anything just yet.
Yeah. And I think it's important to like to know that no two journeys are alike. And so no two processes of dealing with this reality check or even how you validate yourself is going to look the same. And being able to know what you need is also about knowing and being self-reflective of what you're missing. And sometimes that takes getting the right support to do that. Right. And that's like, so I think sometimes, so I have that's the one that I was working with and they were I always claim like, social media is awesome. I am not a person who is anti-social media at all. So I don't want y'all to hear this as that. But there's a lot of memes, right? And there's like these self-care, these one-liners, you could cut your whole, like this, like set the boundaries and like just a lot of memes that trying to tell you how to do things in one sentence. And the reality of journeys and healing, it requires us to go past the one sentence. It requires us to look into the depths of what our individual lived experiences around love and life are, right? And so really being able to be self-reflective in a way that is more than just looking for empty solutions or immediate gratification and immediate solutions, and start looking at the process of the journey being long and not painful, right? So not everything about the journey is painful, and you can still have those desires to want to be with someone, to want to partner with someone. But on your journey, you're learning to heal yourself in a way that can give you the right types of vision to select the right type of love, right? So I think that's just important, just as we're talking about like these, these tips. Like these one-liner tips are cool, but the reality is that your individual journey is going to take you underneath whatever's causing that bond or connection to that person that might be toxic for you. So I just wanted to make that point.
No, that's really good.
And what's our last tip?
So the last tip is to get support and maintain your healing.
That was fun. I should have waited.
No, you led us right to it. You led us right to it. I mean, that's why I think I was really impressed too. I mean, like, I love the group, SCBG. Okay. I love the group, and I see the support that everybody gives each other, and the fact that the person felt that way, and reached out for help and got that support was really all you could really do. Like,
Mhm.
and the third point is support, getting the support that you need to maintain your healing. So using whatever resources you have, the group, if you're getting individual help, with a therapist, that's important, and using that resource.
Mhm.
Um, whatever spiritual practice or religious practice you have, making sure you're doing that. Just, making sure you're using the resources available and looking for resources to support you on the journey so that you don't go back, right? After you do the reality check, you can use those resources to keep you on your healing journey and staying away from that toxic person.
Mhm. And not going towards a new toxic.
Absolutely. Because
How about that?
I was just thinking that. I'm like, we did not make that point. Don't
right.
substitute or replace one toxic for the next toxic. Let's take a break, heal ourselves, and figure out what that looks like for our individual healing so that we're not immediately grabbing on to the next thing so that we can feel this need, but we end up with the same boat,
No, no, I actually did that. So I was really proud of myself with letting go of my ex, right? Where I'm just like, oh, I'm done with him. I mean, sobbing, crying, but I was glad I finally walked away from good after we broke up with each other. God knows how many times, right? But then what I did was it's like, okay, well, I'm just gonna have friends, right? The friends were toxic, the male friends, right? And so I got to the point where I'm just like, after like the second or third one, I put myself on a dating hiatus where I'm just like, okay, shit.
Taking a sabbatical.
Right, yes. I had to take a dating sabbatical. And because like, here's where this is the reality check, right? So I did the reality check where I was in the process of having that reality check of saying, okay, Sharea, you don't need to go back to your ex. He's really toxic. It's not healthy for you, right? But then I had to have the second reality check and said, Sharea, your picker is off. Like who you're connecting with is just off. And I had to be honest that the reason why I was off is because I was not healed in the areas that I needed to be healed in to be able to connect with guys on a romantic level and not choose people who look good on the outside, right? Or present it well initially, but just really was not a healthy match for me, And I want to emphasize that healthy match for me is that, people do change. Even with the guys I've dated, so I'm not going to say names because they could be awesome guys now. That still doesn't mean I need to connect with them. But just when we were together, it just really wasn't healthy. And so with doing that dating sabbatical, was it hard? Absolutely. Because there was no dates, not with guys anyway, getting the free dates. And going out and do stuff. But then and honestly, that was also around the same time that I started getting more focused about publishing my book and my business, and also just taking that time to heal. And so I was able to focus on things that I had threw to the back burner that were really important to me, but I had put on the back burner because I was so focused on these friendships and relationships. And the level of fulfillment that I was able to get to was more than the fulfillment I had or I thought I had with being in those toxic connections and relationships. And so that's the other point I want to throw out there too, is that while it's hard to let go and it can be really lonely initially, if you work through the process, is that it's definitely worth it. And just don't keep jumping from one toxic relationship to the next.
And so
Gary,
I'm going to
I'm sorry. I picture myself in the comments just now as you're talking, as I was doing the previous weeks, and I was just saying, "Ooh, you just said a word." In my head, I'm like, "You just said a word." I mean, the fact that your testimony is, I had this bad situation because someone tricked me. Basically, they presented one way and they was a whole other way.
Or I tricked myself.
I think, I tricked myself.
And I take some responsibility, people, just a little bit.
I tricked myself. I tricked myself.
Both. It could be both.
And the nurturer in us always wants to kind of keep trying to make it better too, right? Not only what we're lacking and what we're really looking for, but just being a nurturer and being forgiving when we shouldn't be, and all that kind of stuff. But when you step back and got away from that relationship to say that you wrote a book, and was fulfilled by doing something so powerful and really developed you, that's a real testimony.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I was just like, oh, you just said a word.
Distraction of what you thought was a need, there's other places to get the need met, right?
Yes.
So, and what I think, you know, from my perspective, because I was laughing in my head while you were talking, because I was like, so I did the opposite. I found a bunch of really good men and was dating them, but I wasn't trying to really be serious. So I know that sounds bad, but it was still the same replacement, right? And so it was like I was trying to replace and think that that was going to be the tool to stop, or to the tool to help me through my journey of healing versus to directly go towards my healing, right? It was like I could avoid it because now I got a justification of these good men that are pretty decent, and if, you know, I'm still trying to hook some of them up, but they don't want me to, but whatever. But my distraction was a little different, right? So mine wasn't jumping from a toxic to a new toxic. Mine was a toxic to these men who like really are good men. And I just was like, well, I can distract myself because I can call it dating. You know, like I can call it dating, but I'm still not on my path of healing because I'm so busy. I'm so busy looking for love in all the wrong places, or looking for love in order to distract me from dealing with what was going on that I was really not focused on and dealing with, what really could fulfill me past intimate relationship, right? And so past that, like, and so for me, that was about a spiritual journey that I was trying to avoid. For you, it was about an area of achievement and really acknowledging that you're moving on to this way, right? For each person is going to be based off of their journey, right? It's because I could have kept on, and then I had to still go on the sabbatical too, because I was like, this, even though this is, I'm not even interested in these guys. I know they're not great pot, they're great guys, they're nice people. Ain't nothing going on here. Like,
it was just like activity.
Yeah, exactly.
It was like
I'm just here
things when we're doing something, distracting ourselves and doing something, but doing a bunch of nothing, getting nowhere.
Exactly. And so even that, I had to say to myself, let me take a pause, because I can't go on this way and expect to have what I really desire in my heart. So I need to figure out my heart, right? And I need to figure out where it was broken and where it needed to be healed in a way that no one else could do for me. Right. And so, so making sure that whatever, like that, from the toxic to toxic is one thing, but don't get so fooled to think that you're not just jumping from distraction to distraction. And distractions can also be good feelings.
Yeah. So I would, on that note, I want to say too, that like even starting a business or writing a book could be a distraction from the healing. Because the starting a business wasn't a distraction for me, is because it came out of me healing. Me healing, I could no longer run from the purpose that God had on my life, because another element, like there were so many layers to my pain, and even that after I got out of a relationship, that I realized why I fell into that relationship. So that's part of that accountability. Like, yes, my ex was toxic. After I broke up with him, I realized years later that he was a narcissist, like, because I didn't have that level of understanding. And so I knew what I was experiencing was wrong, but just didn't have a name to it. But then a reality check for me is that I had to look at, okay, Sherry, what about your personality? What about you, your behaviors, your tendencies attracted you to a narcissist in the first place? Is that, you know, sometimes we get so caught up on, oh, they're toxic, they're narcissists, they're this, they're that. And they may very well be that. They may be that. But then you have to look at you, and this is not justifying any type of abuse that anyone experiences. So please know I'm not saying that. But if you want to stop being attracted to those type of same relationships or whatever experiences, you do have to start looking at you and see, what do I need to heal in me so that I'm no longer attracted to this type of situation. And so I had to avoid myself, and just knowing that, again, that like Sharea said, a business, a book, going back to school, achieving whatever, traveling around the world, whatever it is that you like to do, you can use good things as distractions that prevent you from healing. And at some point you're going to have to heal anyway. So it's like,
because those things come crashing down too. Right. Yes. Because again, they're external. And the one thing about, especially because I just really been focusing a lot on joy as like my thing, a lot of it is really internal. Like the method of really succeeding and finding success is never going to be about your external achievements or accomplishments. It's really going to be about your internal response to the things that you need in life, or desires that you have in your heart to be able to help yourself and others that you care about. So for me, being able to really stop being distracted even on things that was fun was about really learning that distraction was preventing me from getting true joy. And I'm not willing to risk happy moments for joy. Like, I want joy. Like, and so part of that was me being able to escape the happy moments for just a moment so that I can get some of this pain unleashed from my own past and from the trauma that I experienced, right? And be okay with that even attracted the dude in the first place, right? And that attracted the things that really were out of my control with my behaviors, right? So that attracted certain things. And we talked about this a little bit last week with the intergenerational trauma and, you know, curses. When we think about it, those attractions come from somewhere. And if you're not going to be willing to really cut that tie, you're going to find your way back to it even after you're distracted with good things. And I just wasn't willing to keep going that way. Now, my sabbatical was hard because I was having such a good time. I love it. I am not here for all the lies about not being able to date and all that. That was everybody else's story. I enjoyed it. I had my rules and my regulations to keep me safe. I had my phone girlfriends on dial for who I was going with, so they knew the name, the number, that license plate, and a picture if I had to. I had a good time, but in that good time, it wasn't moving my growth and my healing forward.
So people have to be ready for that, right? Because what you just described is a lot of work, but it's good work to get you to true joy. And I think that a lot of times we don't know what true joy even is, right? Like when we talked about this main point before we got on the call, Sherry said, I was like, well, how do you talk to someone about implementing real self-care and taking care of and loving on themselves and staying on their journey in a practical way? And Sherry was just really like goals, right? Like focus on goals. And so when I heard you talking just now, it reminded me of that, right? Because you were really intentional about what you were doing. Once you was done being distracted and having a good time, you was ready and intentional.
Oh, there's some beautiful men out there. I mean, and that's why I ended up with the one that was most beautiful to me.
Exactly.
I'm start sending these videos to T so he can hear you give him shouts out.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Even that, I was like, even when we met, part of that was like, I'm not going to let you distract me. I'm on this healing place and I don't want nobody in here. And then I had to realize that ain't good either. Like, that's not what you really want. You want the fullness of this. And so being able to be open that your journey shifts and be flexible on your journey. Like, your healing is a process, which means that we're still all on it. Right.
Yeah, correct.
And that part, I think, I hope people hear that we're not at some end destination. We're all still on these journeys. And we hope that each of us have some wisdom to pass to others, because I feel very strongly that most of us have wisdom that we hold to ourselves that could benefit us all.
Well,
absolutely.
I think that I was just going to say, I think that sometimes we're addicted to the toxicity, and until we're done feeding off of it for whatever reason, we're going to be in it. So if you're really ready to stop it,
well, I think that is a point in itself. I think we should just for a quick second take that one.
Because I was about to say, talking about the comfortability, because basically it's the familiarity of your pain. Is that so even though it hurts, even though you don't like it, it's still familiar. And so it feels, quote unquote, safer to stay in the familiarity of your pain rather than take the risk of healing, of your own known healing and what that's going to manifest like. But it's worth it.
and sometimes I don't have the insight to know the difference. Right. So it is that, because I agree. Like, I feel like it very strongly. Sometimes it's just like, you're going to have to make a choice and do something. But sometimes I don't have the insight to know that what I'm dealing with is not typical. What I'm dealing with is not healthy. What I'm dealing with is not the right thing for me to be able to fully love myself. And what I say because I think what we assume is that everyone has the same access to understanding good and bad, right? Or what's good for you and what's bad for you. But if my insight is based off of my experience and my growing up, then I am going to have that as my frame of reference, even when other people tell me to do something different. And so that familiar that you said earlier becomes also about not being able to clearly see other options, right? Because it blinds me to other options because it's all I know, but it's all I know, it's all I'm exposed to. Then where do I go with this? Right. And so it's almost like I don't have the how to be able to even know to start my journey. And so I think that also becomes, and I think that's where the responsibility, when you guys you listen to me over the weeks, the responsibility of us as a community to make sure that we are making other people aware and exposed to other options of health, even when they've been doing nothing but living in toxic, right? And not realizing that that's what it is, right? So I don't give up on people because their story looks different than me. Like I don't give up on people because they may have come from a different experience and currently even living in it, right? We have this tendency to get almost like elitist on our care and our health and our self-care. My bad, I'm feeling like I'm getting on a soapbox. I'm gonna come down, I'm gonna come off. But I'm also say that that is part of the reason why this group is created, where it's like, don't get so high and mighty that you can't help others to see what needs to be done to help them heal too. Like this is our journey, right? I want to be able to influence others, but I also want them to influence me so that I don't get stuck. And so I think when people don't have the access, we have to start making them aware and exposed to it, because we could get pretty selfish on these journeys, right? I think, and I don't think I love how people, oh, self-care is supposed to be selfish. No, it is and it isn't, right? The actual process is about caring, but you've got to be able to collectively look at how I could also impact others. And so I think I wanted to make sure that we also don't shame the people who don't have the awareness to know how, because they have no exposure to it. So get busy exposing them to something new and not shaming them. But I'm going to get off my soapbox now.
So one got a couple. So you just got a comment from Azrael that said you just broke down the importance of a healthy community. Thank you. We have Tracy who said that we are all beautiful. Thank you so much. You're gorgeous as well. And then Kendra talked about how accountability partners is really important too. And so here's the part that I want to put a challenge out to everyone here is that, because Sharea mentioned exposure. It's that expose yourself to other ways of living, right? And I'm not saying do that in a way where you endanger yourself, but being aware of the fact that some of us have not been, some of our communities look exactly like us. Some of our networks, our day-to-days looks exactly the same, where we're only encountering people who think like us, who've had the same experiences. And it's not to say that's a bad thing, but when you've never, like Sharea just said, when you've never been exposed to something different, you don't even know that other options exist. And so I challenge everyone to expose yourself to other points of views and experiences. And with this having social media, there's an easy way to do that where you're not, where it's not expensive. Like even just following different people on Instagram, right? Or on Facebook, you know, it gives you the opportunity just being part of groups, like you're part of this group, which we're so glad to have you here, but you can join other groups as well. Just to be able to expose yourself to other things so that you can be able to see that there's other options. And just by being aware of those other options, you may find that, hey, there's an option that is better suited for you than the one you have now. And I'm just talking generally, because not just in regards to romantic relationships, but even when it comes to your professional opportunities and, you know, just what you can do with your life and just passions and hobbies that you can have. Like there's so much out there in the world, and just depending on your lived experience and where you grew up, you only see just a small fraction of it. And so I challenge you to be intentional about just seeing more of the world.
And expose them to you, right? Because what I don't want people to think is that only the quote unquote healed, I don't even know what that means, have the opportunity to influence others. Sometimes those who are in different experiences than us, we need to be exposed to them to see that healing looks different sometimes. Healing has different levels. Healing has a certain level of even accepting where you are and being okay with that. That looks different based off of who you're exposed to, right? And so making sure that you're not just looking for you, you're also looking to expose others, right? Because they need to see us. They need to accept that, I'm going to communicate differently than some other people. I don't change who I am when I go into rooms. This is who you're getting because I want people to know that Black women exist as they are. And if you're uncomfortable with that, that's your problem, not mine. I'm not going to change that. But that also means that now you get exposure to see that my Blackness is also lovable. It doesn't have to come in a suit. It doesn't have to come with my hair pulled in a certain style. It doesn't have to come a certain way for it to be acceptable. Right. And so even your exposure to others is allowing us to be seen and free for a change. Like, so, okay, I'm off of it. I gotta get off.
No, I think that's great. I think, like you said, healing looks different for different people. Mm-hmm. There's the familiarity point, but there's also people who have exposure and they're just not ready, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. And so, you support them in the best way you know how. Right? Like you said, you don't give up on people, but I know for me personally, I have a lot of people that call me frequently, and we talk, and sometimes you kind of feel like we're having the same conversation. Mm-hmm. We're having the same conversation, and I know you've been exposed to a lot of things and have a lot of access because we're in this together. You have the same exposure and access that I have. So it's all about, people's timing and when they're ready, and you cannot force people. You can't force
people with that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And set boundaries around how much you can listen. Right.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because at the end of the day, me saying that also still means I have to keep my journey of healing too. Right.
Exactly.
I can accept you, but I don't have to constantly endure every moment of your unhealthy if it impacts me. Right. And so how I do that, or how I accept where you are, is also accepting where I am and knowing that I need to set boundaries around how much I might be able to expose myself to you if you're not ready for that next step in your journey, or even considering it, which is okay too, because I can't tell you what to consider. But I'm also not going to assume that you're going to do it the exact way I am doing it, or even make you feel bad because you're not. Because I think that's my biggest issue or hang.
Right. And I'm not going to completely cut you off because you're not doing what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, because that's not support either. Yeah. Exactly. So Sherry, I'm sorry, you were.
No, it's fine. Oh, I was just going to say, I'm going to be honest. Listen, I'm not going to even try to front. There's some people I have cut off.
And that's fine.
And that's not my go-to. So let me say, I do agree with Sharea and Michelle, but I'm not going to sit here in front for y'all because just in case somebody's in this group.
But see, and that's not to me a front. Like, so I don't think it's a front. It's a perspective, right? Because fronting would mean that I'm doing it and it still harms me.
Yeah.
It doesn't, because I also know my boundaries in relationships, and I know that I don't have to cut a person off to be free of them. Like
I'm talking about for me, I didn't want to sit here and pretend like I know I haven't cut people off. So that's why I wanted to be honest.
Now, I don't know if people got cut off on their own, I've been cut off. Like I hope that you cut me off if I'm too much for you. Like
I have too, and I'm grateful
to be transparent and just say that I have definitely but for me, you have to do a lot to get cut. Once I do, it's been a lot that has happened to even get to that point. But there was something. So exposure.
Now you got me thinking, did I cut anyone off? I'm like, have I cut?
No, sure. I don't think you have. I've known you enough years where I see how you operate with people. I don't think you have. I think what you said, as far as people have cut themselves off or cut you off, is more likely to be the case.
Because I won't turn off my healing. I won't turn off my healing. And if that's too much for you, then I can understand if so I do have that as my clear cut boundary. I won't turn off my healing. And if it's too much and just seems like I'm doing the most for you, cut me off. I'm okay with that.
You can hang.
But so here's the last thing I want to say about exposure too. So talking about just the familiarity pain and just how healing can even be a risk, but it's worth taking it. Exposure helped me to get comfortable with the uncomfortable or scary part of healing, right? Mm-hmm. Because exposure also helped to revitalize my dreams. So for instance, when it comes to romantic relationships, I knew before I met my my ex-boyfriend the type of relationship and marriage that I wanted to have, right? I had this picture in my head, some of it, a little fantasy, whatever. But there's some things that I had then that I still stick to now. So it wasn't all just,
Yeah, of
happily ever
course, and it
after.
shouldn't be. Yeah.
Yeah, so I knew what type of relationship I was have. I knew that I was intentional about, hey, I'm dating to marry, right? That has not changed. And so being in that toxic relationship for that long of a time, it did a number on my dreams, my goals, on my self-confidence, all of that. And so exposing myself to healthy ways of living through people who were like doing what I wanted to do professionally, to people who had healthy marriages or were healthy relationships, to people who were traveling the world. Exposure helped to revitalize my own dreams and let me know that it's possible because
Wow, look at that. You better say that word. I'm sorry, I had to get it out. Like, you better say that, because that is like dream bigger because you were exposed to bigger. Like, yes, good.
And so exposure has helped me to do that. And just even like, so Sharea is one of my in-person mentors that I actually know. But I have several mentors who I've never met in person, that they don't know who in the world I am, rhyme and name and all, but they are still an influential part of, one, my healing process, two, keeping my dreams like alive, and then three, just letting me know that there's other options. And so, being able to see that, it renews me that, one, it's okay for me to be different. It's okay for me to want to have a different life, whatever. It's okay for me to dream, because I see people who are either doing it or doing something similar, or who also have just been out the box and made it happen. And so exposure is also just such a great tool when it comes to helping you to heal, not just from heartbreak, but really just from any other pain in your life or disappointment. Even feel like you failed, like you can recover.
Yeah. You just better say that. I don't even know what else to say besides you better say that. Like, because I don't even got anything else to add besides that's right. Like, because I'm thinking of all my like history of getting better in the sense, or in areas where I know I had to expose myself to something different because I just wasn't exposed to it naturally. Right. So it wasn't the environment I grew up with. It wasn't the people in my family. I needed to find it, and finding it sometimes was outside of even my comfort zone, because I had to even take the risk that people wouldn't reject me, like, and some did, right? Like, that was okay too, but I didn't give up, because those who rejected me weren't for me to learn from. Right. And it's just, when you were talking, I was thinking, like, and I always think as a therapist, sometimes people, so I'm sorry, but like, I was thinking how trauma impacts our ability to even receive, to be exposed, right? So it impacts our learning, because it naturally makes our brain defensive. And it means that we're in such a place where we can't even really think to receive, right? And so it's just such a hard like thing to go from that emotional brain to a place where I can even receive the next step of hearing that exposure is going to help me, because then it really means that thing that's in between, I have to break through. And really, that's a lot around what we've dealt with. And I feel like, I know that you guys probably heard me get on this again. I am on these soapboxes today, but that's where it really is helpful to have someone who works with you directly to identify what that hurdle is from your emotional mind to that place where you can get in the middle, to get to the place where you can be able to accept the exposure you need to grow, right? Because that ain't easy. And for me, a white Jewish man when I was 23, and that changed my life, to be able to go from not being able to receive and openly love and openly hear other people's opinions without being defensive or thinking that I had to protect my experience and upbringing, to be able to like really receive that it's time to grow, even with that upbringing, not out of it. Because I think that's different when people tell you to grow out of that. No, but grow with it. And so that I can be a different person. And that's not easy, like not easy at all. But I think to know that it's doable is why we sit here today, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Don't lose hope, ladies. Don't lose hope.
That's a great point. That's one of the things, the last thing that, oh my gosh, I lost her name. The woman who posted this that inspired the talk for today, the last thing she said was feeling hopeful. And so that was encouraging. I thought that was very encouraging, and she's certainly on the right path with reaching out for the support to stay on the healing journey. And, one of the things that was mentioned earlier was, some people are still in these toxic relationships because we've been the theme here has been about like, how do you not go back to it? But there are some of us that are still in very toxic relationships. And so I think, making sure we have that support and that exposure is even amplified, right?
Yeah.
When you're right in there with the person. So I just wanted to go back and make and like emphasize that, because there are a lot of folks who are in
Right,
toxic
like that they're in it
right now. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Not trying
I mean, thank you for saying that, because I think as we're talking, I'm thinking of the out, like in the next stage, in the getting out and being out. But there are a lot of us who are in it, and this is actually Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
Yeah,
And it's a very difficult month for me in general, because my first cousin was killed by her partner, and her birthday is actually in 2 days. And now that you mentioned that, I think that's important to bring up. And I want to make sure before we go, give the information for the Domestic Violence Center. And if not, we'll share it in the chat. But I think as we were talking, we don't think about, what if I'm in it right now? How do I get enough exposure to see different, but also to do different? And I think our techniques and our tools are still very similar. So being able to validate that you are where you are, and there is opportunity to get out of where you are, and that you have opportunity to actually be exposed to women who have been in emotional and physical and other types of abusive relationships and have gotten out successfully. And so being able to really know that that's a possibility is the first thing, right? So being able to acknowledge that you are not in this alone. You have not done anything worthy of being harmed, or you have not done anything that allows another person to harm your being, and it's your fault. It's never your fault. And even if that person has spent a year, 4 years, whatever amount of years working on your self-confidence and your ability to see yourself as worthy, you are worthy, and you are worthy to get out of this if you can, right? And if you cannot, and I think if somebody can grab the information.
Yeah, I just looked it up
in there.
Okay.
It is very important to get help even as you stay in the relationship, so that you can have a concrete safety plan. Yeah. So I work with people who are still in actively abusive relationships, because it's not safe for them to leave at this point. And what we do is actually create a concrete plan of safety within the home, and also if you have to escape the home. And so I think it's really important for us to know that even if you are dealing with something right now, you also have options to get a plan in place that you can know for yourself, and if you have children, to make sure that you have options. And so if somebody can throw the number, and or, because I know I should know it by heart.
Yeah, so I have the number and I have the website, and I'm trying to put it in the chat right now. Okay. So the website is thehotline.org. So that's THEHOTLINE.org. And then the number that you can call, and I was trying to also put on the other number, like the TTY option. But the number you can call is 1-800-799-7233.
And for those who have run the risk of their cookies and or their information being searched, for the website, it immediately erases from your cookies. And so you can go and get the information you need, and it'll erase it, and it'll erase from your history. For the telephone number, it would be good if you can't use your own phone, see if you can use a neighbor and or someone else who will allow you to use their information to contact you.
Sherry, can you give me the number again? I'm putting it in the chat for you.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm actually about to type it in now.
Okay.
So I'm going to put it all in into one. It's the website and both the numbers. But it's 1-800-799-7233. So it's about to pop up in the chat now.
All right. So we had a lot of comments. Anybody want to read them?
So it's just like people really agreeing with like what was said. Do you have that up, Michelle?
Yeah, so
Okay.
Ebony said, yes, I need to expose myself to new experiences because since I've changed my mindset for the better, I want to expand. Okay, Ebony. Tracy said that part. Um, Another
Ladies
Ebony.
are
Oh
our
no,
girl. We
Ebony.
don't even know Tracy, but you are here for it, and we love it. Like,
Right.
I love that you come back. Right? Like,
Love it. Ebony went on to say, because sometimes you can't take everyone on your journey.
mm-hmm.
And Tamika says, I really like this group. And yes, you are all right. And I have always been afraid of change, but I think it's time to try new experience and try and experience new things.
Yes.
Um, as Riel said, I think that exposure is important for those still in it. Seeing better helps in knowing better. It can
Yep.
it can be a great first step.
Nice.
Yeah. So
All right. So I guess what we usually open it up to questions, or like anybody have anything that they want us to answer. It is Emotional Health Thursday. I can't think of what the day is.
Yeah.
Emotional Health Thursday. So if there is anything that you guys want us to pop on before we say our self-care tips, this is the time.
So we don't have anything yet. And shout out to Kendra. By the way, I haven't heard in you like forever, but I need to reach out too. So some both of us. So we definitely need to link up like this weekend.
Well, I guess what we'll do is we'll start our tips, and if anyone has any questions while we're doing the tips, feel free to do them in the chat. So
Okay.
our first tip is to drink water, to drink some water, right? I'm so mad that we can't see your little happy, healthy hole.
Listen, my Zoom camera won't let me be great right now. There is pink lettering on here that says happy, healthy, whole. So this reinforces the importance of just wellness, especially when it comes to every area of your life, not just physical wellness. So that's why I made sure that I had this so I can show it off.
Yeah.
Stores at the RS Wellness store. So definitely check that out.
So drink water, move more, right? So even if you are not a person who loves to exercise a whole lot, consider taking walks, consider dancing, consider just moving your body a little bit more, as we are in a time where we sit more than we probably were just even 6 months ago. Move a little bit throughout the day so that you can make sure that you are keeping your body active and responsive to energy. So move more, drink water, rest. Make sure that you are getting a good sleep routine or cycle to be able to make sure that your body can handle each and every day that we are trying to endure life, right? Be mindful in the moment, be grateful in the moment as well. And you can do different types of mindfulness activities like coloring, walking. Today I was trying to, and I stress the word trying because I'm still trying to be a plant mom. I was trying to learn how to replant. I don't know, whatever.
Repot. Oh, really? Somebody was teaching you? We got to.
No, I was learning on YouTube.
Okay.
I was learning on YouTube. What do you think? I was YouTube University. And so finding things to be mindful. But when I ended up doing it, it was like, wow, this person was really good. So I don't know their name. And it was just really cool to like just be mindful of that one activity. And I can't now wait to get into the dirt. So we'll see. So be mindful and do mindfulness activities, and then be intentional about finding joy, right? Making sure that you do something every single day that brings you a level of happiness and joy and contentment in your heart. Does that get them all?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we do have a question too.
Nutritionist.
Oh, okay.
So this is from Azrael. She said, so if you had to cut people off for your health, what's some self-care tips to help fill that gap that's been left? So I would say, so my tips would be even before you cut people off, is to first create boundaries and goals for yourself, because that's going to help you to know if you need to, one, just create distance, or if they actually need to be cut off. Having just everybody just be cut off, I don't recommend that. That's not healthy, because then you don't have a network. And the reason why I emphasize that is because the point that you're saying is that with having a gap, sometimes you have an unnecessary gap because you cut somebody off that you just needed distance with. As opposed to just seeing them every day or talking to them every day, you may need to just, check on them once a week or once every 2 weeks, right? But being able to put very clear goals and boundaries in place in every area of your life that's important to you. So for me, my main areas are spiritual, social, financial, professional / educational, and then just like fun, which is related to social. But those are like my primary areas, right, that I set goals with. Depending on the behaviors or my experiences with people in my life, that's going to determine if you're going to be close to me, if there's going to be distance, or if I now need to cut you off. But I'm going to give you chances, right? But this is where my boundaries come into play, because my boundaries and my goals are going to determine how many chances you get, right? And so, from there, that's how I'm able to determine if I cut somebody off. And then that void that I'm feeling, for me, it feels less like a void because I know I'm very clear on my boundaries and my goals that I need. So it's like they're missed, but they're not missed in a way that, like, I don't want to sound rude, but it's like they're missed, but I know it's a good reason for me missing them.
And so there's where I would have said to grab, right? Make sure that you have your mindset ready for that separation, right? So make sure that you have the right things that you're telling yourself, that I'm parting or distancing myself from this relationship because I need to maintain my healing. I'm honestly not healthy when I'm with that person. Like, so make sure that you have those exact statements that you can say to yourself as you do all those things that you need to do, like find joy, keep your relationships, as you do all that, make sure that you're also changing your mindset around the reason or making sure your mindset is clear as the reason why you needed to set the boundary or cut them off. So like there is times when I'll have to tell myself out loud, although I love that person, I'm not allowed to be harmed by them. Although I need to be able to be exposed and keep a relationship with them for me to maintain love, I also need to make sure I keep the boundaries so that I don't get damaged, that I don't get harmed, right? So I'm saying things to myself that are really going to also impact all the things I'm still doing to fill those voids. But I'm also acknowledging that the decision was the right decision for me to stay healthy, right? Because if I don't change how I'm thinking about cutting that person off, it's going to constantly look or feel like a vacancy versus the right thing to do and actually changing my thoughts around that person. Like I need to say some stuff to myself because whether we like it or not, you're saying some stuff, right? So make it healthy. And also almost like that reality check we did earlier, make it healthy and clear. Like I need this boundary to maintain my health. I need to cut this person off to be able to fall in love with myself more.
Yeah, and lean on your support that other people, so I realize that maybe if you have other people in your support system.
Or you got the group. Right?
Yeah, I'm about to say, if you don't, make sure you're checking in. Let me tell you, the group be popping, okay? So even if you don't have like other supports in your system and in your other people in your support system right now, come to the group. There are people who have posted they're looking for new online friends. Of course, make sure you're safe and connecting with people, but seriously, like there's so many opportunities. I know there's one post that put up where someone talked about going out to lunch. I'm like, wow. That's more adventurous than what I would do. But there's opportunity, and there's women here who are willing to make connections with new people. And so this group is possibly could be the answer to that. With you finding other people, like there's people in this group literally from all over the world. Like it's not just the US, it's not just where we are. And so if you need other new people who are healthy and who are on that same journey
or on a journey. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. All right, let's go. Y'all ready?
So you got great tips. Yes. Oh, thank you. Glad you enjoyed those.
Yeah, I think the combination of those is really it, because when you're feeling lonely, really doing that reality check and really focusing on your individual goals is really going to help you get through. And those goals could be fun stuff. It doesn't have to all be like daunting, right? And you can kind of discover what it is that what'd you say?
I said, please don't make them all daunting.
Right.
Because then they won't be fun.
They won't be fun. You want to do something that's filling you up and really focusing on I'm just so into trying to do plants right now. That's why I latched on to Sharea talking about doing repotting, because I repotted and I'm scared I messed up. But like doing that, it's a goal of mine. Yes, it's a mindful thing, but it's really a goal of mine to really start trying to grow, keep plants from dying.
Hey, you gave me my babies. Like my plants are from Michelle. So the plants that I have now, I'm like a plant mom because of Michelle and my young people in my life at the time. And they mean a lot to me because they're the plants that I got from my mother when she passed. So I'm like, y'all gonna blossom and y'all gonna live.
Y'all gonna live.
And so I definitely agree. It's something that you don't realize is also very grounding.
Yeah.
So on that note, let's do our affirmation time. Ladies,
Okay.
who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
What you say, you don't have any?
Oh, I was gonna say we should have Michelle go first.
I felt that vibe. I'm ready. I'm safe.
Oh, I'm secure.
I deserve healthy love.
Ooh. I am abundant.
I'm a magnet for health.
I am free.
I release fear and doubt.
I am allowed to have emotions.
Let's see. I am valuable.
That reminded me of Kamala last night when you said that. I'm sorry. I am supported.
I am a reflection of love. Did Sherry freeze on us?
I think so.
All right, well, go ahead. Your turn. Then we're gonna just go until she come back. Let's see if she comes back.
Grounded. I'm grounded.
I am loved. I don't know if we said that one already because I think I got off a little bit. I'll be right back. I'm going to get it back on us. I'm loved. Go ahead.
I am in control of myself.
I have the ability to grow.
Uh-oh. I am balanced.
I am full of love and light.
I am creative.
I am receiving the joy in my life.
I am divine.
You said defined.
Divine, excuse me. Divine feminine energy.
I am blessed and a reflection of God.
Ooh. I am able.
Let me get her back in here. I am honored.
I am worthy of love.
Ooh. All right, Sherry, it's your turn. Go ahead. You got to do like 7.
Wait a minute. So I'm like, watch as soon as I come back in.
You got to do it. Come on. You got to do like
rapid fire.
Do 4 in a row. Go for it.
Oh my goodness. I am strong. I deserve, I deserve to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. I am lovable. I'm likable. I am awesome.
Keep going, darling. You got it. I am worthy of all those words.
Yes.
I receive happiness.
Ooh, that's good. I will embrace something new.
I am worthy to be understood.
I am able to heal from a broken heart.
I am enough.
I am kind to myself.
Ooh, have y'all read the declarations in the chat?
No, we're going to do that
let
next.
Me read these because the ladies are like killing it in the chat with the information.
All right, let them go then. Go for it. Read them.
Okay, I am a vessel of peace. I am balanced. I am a work in progress. I am protected. I love the person I am becoming. Ooh, I'm still in that one. I am mindful. I am growing and glowing. I am enough. I am alive. Okay, we are bringing
Wait a second, and you missed one. It says, I am divinely guided. I love that.
Ooh, I like
yes, that is good. Oh, I missed that one.
I am manifesting love beyond what I can imagine.
Yes, that is really good too. Oh my goodness. We're gonna start having the ladies in the group do the affirmations because y'all are killing it right
Yes. Or what we could do, like, hey, our turn, your turn, y'all. I am happy.
I am powerful.
I'm funny.
Yes, you are, darling. Like, wait, are we still doing this? Like, we are still doing this. All right, last one, last round. Who started it? Michelle, you started it.
I did.
Yeah.
My voice is clear.
Sherry.
Oh, I'm going next. Oh man. Oh, and I just lost the what I was gonna say. I'll say. I think somebody said it already.
Okay.
Somebody say I am valuable.
Say it again.
Sherry Wary just said it.
You're valuable.
Yeah, I'm valuable.
And I guess we're gonna close on. I have the freedom to live a good life.
Yes.
Ladies, you have been awesome. We definitely know that 4:30 is the popping time that we are going to stick with.
Yes.
You guys came through. We have officially changed the time from 4 o'clock to 4:30. We were a little late today, but we made it happen.
And we stayed on a lot longer too.
Yeah. So I guess we're good.
Yeah, we're good. So thank you all for joining us. Make sure that you tune into the self-care TV show on the Emotional Wealth channel.
All right, you guys, be well.
Bye.
Take care of yourselves and each other.